It was a quiet evening at the secret Earth's military base, hidden deep in the desert. The sky was clear, the wind was calm, and the soldiers were relaxed. No one expected anything strange to happen that night, but the peace didn't last long. At exactly 8:17 p.m., the air changed. The clouds above the base turned dark and started spinning. A loud hum filled the sky like a giant machine waking up. Then, a bright flash of blue light tore through the clouds. From that light, a massive spaceship appeared. It floated in the air, smooth and silent. It was shaped like a silver triangle, with glowing blue lines running along its surface. Everyone at the base froze, staring at the sky. Alarms screamed through the base. Soldiers ran to their stations, weapons in hand. Commanders shouted orders, trying to stay calm, but nothing could prepare them for what came next. The spaceship slowly opened. A soft blue light shone from inside, and then she stepped out. She looked like a human woman, tall and graceful, but her eyes were bright silver, and her skin shimmered like glass under the sun. She wore a black suit that moved like liquid metal. Her long white hair floated as if there was no gravity. She looked around without fear, without care, and then she spoke, her voice cold and strong. "Bring me your strongest," she said. Her voice echoed through the base like thunder. No one spoke, no one moved. They were not sure if she was a threat or a test, but one thing was clear: she wasn't here to make friends. In the control room, General Harris stared at the screen. He had seen many things in his life: wars, alien signals, secret tech, but never something like this. He picked up the red phone and said one name: "Call Captain Ray Carter, far away." In a quiet cabin near the mountains, Ray Carter was chopping wood. He was alone, calm, and focused. The sound of a helicopter broke the silence. He didn't look surprised. Minutes later, Ray stood at the base, dressed in his old uniform. He was tall, strong, with scars on his arms and a calm look in his eyes. He didn't speak much, but people followed him without question. He had seen more battles than anyone alive. When he walked toward the alien woman, she smiled. "Is this your strongest?" she said with a laugh. He said nothing, only raised an eyebrow. She stepped forward. Standing just a few feet away, "I am Commander Valara of the Alari Dominion," she said. "I came here to test your best warrior. If I win, Earth will belong to us. If I lose, I will leave." Ray looked at her for a moment, then said one word: "Fine." The field was cleared. Cameras watched from every angle. Soldiers stood far back. Afraid but curious, Valara raised her hand, and the air around her shimmered. Her feet lifted slightly off the ground. The duel began. She moved fast. Faster than any human I could follow. Ray ducked under her first strike and rolled to the side. He threw a punch, but she vanished and appeared behind him. He turned just in time to block a glowing fist with both arms. The force sent him flying across the field. He hit the ground, rolled, and stood up again. Valara looked surprised. Most beings would have stayed down. "You're tougher than you look," she said. Ray wiped a bit of blood from his lip and smiled. "My turn," he said. Then he ran forward, faster than she expected. His punch landed on her chest, sending her flying backward. She crashed into the dirt. Leaving a long mark on the ground, she stood up, her silver eyes narrowing. The soldiers watching held their breath. This wasn't just a fight, it was something more. Ray wasn't just strong, he was something else. He didn't have powers, but he had something even stronger: will. Valara started to understand this was not going to be easy. This human was not normal, and for the first time she felt doubt. She smiled again, but this time it was smaller. "Interesting," she whispered. Ray took a deep breath and walked forward slowly. His eyes locked on hers, calm and deadly. The wind blew. Across the field, dust swirled between them, two warriors from different worlds, about to show each other who they truly were. And so, the real fight was about to begin. Asterisk, a cloud of dust, still hung in the air. The ground where Ray had struck the alien woman was cracked and smoking. Soldiers watched from a distance, silent and frozen. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. Commander Valara stood slowly, brushing off her silver armor. Her hands glowed faintly. Her body showing no pain, but deep inside something was wrong. She felt it. a small crack in her confidence. This shouldn't be possible, she thought. This human should be broken by now. Ray Carter stood a few steps away, breathing calmly, no fancy armor, no glowing powers, no tricks, just grit, instinct, and the kind of experience that can't be taught. He didn't rush, didn't brag, didn't even smile this time. Valara tilted her head, analyzing him. His heart rate was steady, his muscles relaxed. But his eyes, they were sharp, focused, almost to calm. She couldn't read him, and that bothered her more than the pain in her chest. "I underestimated you," she said, her voice softer now. Ray didn't reply. He just nodded once. Then he moved in a blink. Ray was inches away. He threw a punch, and Valara blocked it with both hands. The shockwave cracked the ground under their feet. She pushed him back with a burst of energy. Ray slid across the dirt but stayed standing. He wiped dust from his face. "You're faster now," he said. "You're learning." Valara smirked. "And you're still standing," she replied. Then she charged. They clashed again, fists, kicks, slams. Valara moved like lightning, her strikes glowing with alien energy. Ray dodged most of them, but not all. A blast hit his shoulder, burning through his uniform. He stumbled, but used the momentum to grab her arm and flip her. She hit the ground hard but rolled back to her feet. The fight was brutal, but also beautiful, a dance between power and precision. Around them, the sky grew darker, clouds gathering above. Like an audience, Valara paused, catching her breath. This wasn't just physical. Ray was reading her, predicting her moves, turning her strength against her. He was fighting like someone who had seen everything, survived everything. She looked into his eyes and saw something terrifying. Not hate, not rage, but control. Unshakable control. "You've done this before," she said quietly. Ray nodded. "Many times," he said, "but never with someone like you." Valara's face changed. Not anger, not pride, but curiosity. She had fought hundreds of champions across galaxies, but this human was different. He didn't fear her, didn't admire her. He simply fought her like an equal, and that was new. She lifted both hands, charging. A pulse of blue energy, a sphere formed between her palms. Glowing brighter every second, the soldiers watching started to panic. Backing away, Ray didn't move. "You should run," she warned him. Ray didn't blink. "I don't run," he said, and he sprinted forward. At the last second, Valara released the blast. A wave of energy exploded across the battlefield. Smoke covered everything. For a moment, it looked like the fight was over. Then a shape moved through the smoke, slow, steady. Footsteps. Ray walked out, burned and bleeding, but standing. He looked straight at her and raised his fists again. Valara's eyes widened. She wasn't scared. But she wasn't calm anymore. This man, this human, was something else. He didn't win with power. He won with will, she whispered under her breath. "What are you made of?" Ray answered without hearing her. "More than you expected in her world." Strength was everything, but now she started to wonder if she had misunderstood what strength really meant. She had come here to crush Earth's best warrior, but Earth had sent her something else entirely. Not a champion, but a reminder that humans were not easy to break, not because of their power, but because of their heart. And so, the battle continued, not for victory, but for understanding. For both of them, this was no longer just a fight. It was a test of beliefs, of limits, of what it truly meant to be strong, and neither one was ready to lose, not yet. The wind had settled, the battlefield was quiet. Smoke drifted slowly through the air like a fading memory. Ray stood still, breathing heavy but steady. Valara didn't attack. She could have. Her power was still strong, but something inside her told her to stop. She watched him, his uniform torn, blood on his arms, sweat on his face, but in his eyes, that same calm, the calm of someone who had faced monsters and refused to break. "Why are you still fighting?" she asked. "There's no prize, no glory. You gain nothing from this." Ray looked up, his voice low. "You came here thinking strength is just power. But Earth teaches you different." He sat down on a broken rock, not to rest, but to speak. Valara stayed where she was, floating just above the ground. She crossed her arms, curious but alert. This wasn't a trick. This was something else. Ray looked at the sky for a moment. Then he began to speak. Earth is full of stories. Said stories of survival, pain, and hope. We fought enemies, diseases, disasters. Sometimes we even fight each other. Valara tilted her head slightly, listening. But we always rise again, Ray continued. We fight not because we want war, but because we want peace. He picked up a piece of broken metal from the ground, held it in his hand like it meant something. My father was a soldier, he said. Not because he loved guns, but because he loved people. Valara's eyes narrowed. She didn't interrupt. Her kind didn't talk about emotions. They saw them as weakness. But now she wanted to hear more. He died saving a group of strangers during an attack, Ray said. No one knew their names. No one thanked him. But he did it anyway. Valara floated closer. Just a little. Something about this story felt different. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't training. It was heart. I fight, Ray said. Because someone once fought for me. I fight because we protect what we love, not what we own, not what we control. Valara looked. Around the broken Earth base, the human soldiers still watching from far. She had seen many worlds, many warriors, but none of them spoke like this. None of them made her question her own mission. Where I come from, she said slowly. Emotion is seen as weakness. Doubt is punished. Loyalty is blind. Ray stood up again, walking closer to her. But that's why you lost. The moment you stepped on Earth, he said, because here, love is not weakness. It's our strongest weapon. For a moment's silence, even the wind seemed to pause. Then Valara asked something she had never asked anyone before. Do you think I can understand? Ray looked at her, not as an enemy, but as a person. You're already starting too, he said. The question is, what will you do with it? She said nothing. But something inside her shifted. Not her bones, not her body, but something. Deeper her belief, Valara turned away for a moment. Her hands glowing faintly, she opened a small device hidden on her wrist. It sent out a silent signal to her ship, a message encrypted, private. She didn't say what it was. Ray didn't ask, but he noticed her hesitation, and that was enough. You came to test our strength, he said. But now you've seen our soul, Valara turned back to him. I didn't expect this. She admitted, no one ever does, Ray replied, not until it's too late. For the first time, Valara didn't know what to say. Her mission was clear, her orders strict. But Earth was not what she expected, and this man, this simple, the scarred human had made her see it. She hovered higher, not to escape, but to think. The sky above her no longer looked like just space. It looked like something vast, something full of unknowns, and maybe, for the first time in her life, she didn't want all the answers, not yet, not if they came with silence instead of meaning. Far below, Ray walked back to the center of the field. He didn't look back. He knew this fight wasn't over. But he also knew he had changed something. And sometimes, change was the first step to victory. Asterisk, the sky turned red, not from the sun, but from the arrival of something worse. A second Alari ship entered Earth's orbit. It didn't hover quietly like the first. It roared across the clouds. Like a falling god, black smoke trailed behind its engines. Its shadow covered the desert floor like a blanket of doom. Ray looked up, jaw tightening. Valara turned toward the ship, her expression unreadable. I didn't call them to attack, she said quietly, but I sent a message. Ray didn't blink. They didn't come to talk, he said, and he was right. A dozen Alari soldiers dropped from the ship like burning stars. Sleek armor, glowing weapons, perfect formation, each one stronger than the last. Each one trained to destroy without question. Valara floated beside them, unsure of what she had done. One of the soldiers spoke in her language. Target the human, he ordered. Secure the commander. Ray was already moving. He didn't wait for orders, didn't wait to die. He knew this moment was coming, and he had prepared. He dashed into the nearby canyon, dust rising behind him like smoke from a fire. The Alari followed, weapons locked, but they didn't realize something. This was Earth, this was his ground, and this was a trap. Ray had spent the past 10 years studying terrain. He knew how to use shadows, noise, and rock to his advantage. He didn't fight with raw strength now. He fought with the land. The first Alari soldier stepped into a narrow path. A tripwire snapped. A mini landslide crushed his arm and buried his leg. The others paused, confused. Ray appeared from above. One precise shot from a stolen plasma rifle, the second soldier, dropped, then vanished behind the rocks. Valara watched from the sky. She had trained with these warriors. They were elite. But now they looked lost. How was he doing this? One soldier asked. Valara didn't answer. She was asking herself the same question. Below, Ray moved like a shadow, fast, quiet, unstoppable. Each trap was simple, ropes, mirrors, smoke bombs, but each one worked. He lured two soldiers into a hollow cave, then dropped a charge at the entrance. The blast echoed across the canyon like thunder. Even the sand seemed to shiver. In less than 10 minutes, half of the squad was down, and Ray hadn't taken a single direct hit. Valara landed near the edge of a cliff. Watching him move through dust and stone, he was more than a fighter. He was a ghost. A weapon shaped by survival, and she began to see it clearly now. The Alari trained for perfection, for control, for order. But Earth's champion trained for chaos, for unpredictability. The commander of the squad finally called out, "Retreat, regroup," shouted, but it was too late. Ray was already behind them. He dropped into the center of the squad like a storm. Fist to face, elbow to chest, blade to armor. Within seconds, 3 more soldiers fell. He moved like he was born in battle. The last Alari turned to face him, trembling slightly. Ray stepped forward, eyes cold but steady. "I gave you a chance," he said. "But you brought this to my home." Before the final strike, Valara appeared. Between them, "Enough," she said. Ray stopped, fist inches from the soldier's face. Valara looked at him, not as an enemy, but as something far more dangerous. A man who had nothing to lose. A man who fought not for pride, but for the survival of his world. The canyon was silent again. Broken armor scattered like bones. The surviving Alari limped toward their ship. Ray watched them go, saying nothing. Valara stayed behind. She didn't float this time. She walked heavy steps in the sand. "You could have killed all of them." She said. "I still can," Ray replied, "but I won't." Valara turned to him. "Why?" Ray stared at her. "Because that's the difference between us," he said. She nodded slowly, then looked at the ship above. "They won't stop," she said. "I'll send more." Ray nodded too. "Then let them," he said. "And this time you'll have to choose." Valara looked away, and for the first time, she wasn't sure which side she was on anymore. The night came quietly. Stars blinked above the desert like old eyes watching in silence. The air was cooler now, and the winds had calmed. But inside Valara, there was a storm. She stood alone on a rocky cliff, far from the wreckage, far from her ship. She had told the remaining Alari troops to wait, told them she needed time to observe, but that was a lie. She wasn't observing, she was remembering. And it hurt more than any wound. She stared at Earth's moon, so peaceful, so soft. It reminded her of a different moon, the one she was born on. Memory flashed cold steel floors, blue lights, no laughter, rows of children standing in silence. Eyes forward, hands still, no questions allowed. She was bred, not born. Grown in a stasis pod, programmed with data, taught one thing only: conquer or die. She never had a mother, never had a name. Commander Valara was given to her at age 9. Her first mission at 12, by 16, she had destroyed 2 planets, and never once did she cry, because crying was punished, so were dreams, so were questions. She had only one purpose: serve the Dominion. But now, Earth had done something strange to her. It made her feel, it made her pause, it made her doubt. She clenched her fists, not from anger, but fear. And fear was something she was never trained to face. A sound behind her, she turned quickly, ready to fight. But it was just Ray, quiet as always. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood beside her, hands in his jacket. They both looked at the stars like 2 ghosts sharing the same sky. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "You don't look like a conqueror tonight." Valara didn't smile. But she didn't strike him either. That's because I'm not sure what I am anymore, she said. Ray nodded slowly. That's how you know you're waking up. He replied. She looked at him, eyes tired. All my life I was told that weakness was death, that mercy was a flaw, and that love was poison. Ray shrugged. Sounds like they were scared of their own people. Valara blinked. She hadn't thought of it that way. Were the Alari really strong? Or just afraid of becoming human? I watched you fight, she said. You didn't fight for orders. You didn't fight for pride. You fought because someone else couldn't. Ray looked down at the ground. Yeah, he said. That's what we do here. She sat on a rock, her posture no longer perfect. Do you believe people can change? She asked. Ray didn't answer quickly. He sat beside her, thinking. Change isn't easy, he said at last. It's not fast. It's not clean. But yes, I believe people can change. If they want it more than they fear it, Valara stared at her own hands. These hands had destroyed so many lives. Built for war, shaped for violence. Could they ever hold something gently? I don't know who I am without the Dominion, she said. Ray looked at her. Maybe that's the best place to start. She laughed softly. It was a strange sound. Not cruel, not cold, just human, and that scared her more than any battle. She stood up again, looking down at the desert. This world doesn't make sense to me, she said, but it makes me feel things I was never allowed to feel. Ray stood too. That's what Earth does, he said. It challenges you, and it welcomes you. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They just stood there, warrior and alien. Enemies by title, but something else by choice, above them. The stars shimmered like old stories. Below them, the earth waited, and inside Valara. A wall was starting to crack, not from an explosion, not from a battle, but from a single idea she couldn't push away. What if I was wrong? The ground shook, far across the desert. The Alari mothership lit up like a storm. Its engines screamed, its weapons charged. They weren't waiting anymore. Inside the Earth base, red lights flashed across the walls. Soldiers shouted, running. Through corridors, sirens echoed like wild drums. The invasion had begun. Valara stood on the roof of the base. Her face blank, her thoughts racing. She had warned them. She had told them Earth was not ready, but the Alari High Command didn't care. Didn't want to test anymore. They wanted control. They wanted the planet. Behind her, Ray walked up. The stairs, his uniform torn, bandaged arms still bleeding. But he moved like a mountain, slow, steady, unshaken. He joined her without a word. They're not here for peace, she said. They're here to finish the mission. Ray nodded. Then we finish it before they do. Valara turned to him. You know, we might die. Ray looked at the sky. I've been dying since I was born. He said, might as well choose how. She didn't smile, but something inside her shifted again. This man didn't fight for survival. He fought for meaning. A voice crackled in her ear. Ilari command. Commander Valara, it said. Step aside or be destroyed with them. She didn't answer. Instead, she took a deep breath and turned off the communicator. Ray raised an eyebrow. That's your boss? Not anymore, she said. Moments later, the sky turned blue. White. Dozens of Alari drones dropped from the mothership, sleek, fast, armed to the teeth. Behind them, elite warriors in silver armor. Ray grabbed his rifle. Valara powered up both her hands. Side by side, they jumped down into the battle. The Earth base became a war zone. Explosions shook the walls. Smoke and fire painted the night sky. In the middle of it, two figures fought like legends. Ray covered the ground, protecting the human troops. Every bullet he fired found its mark. Every punch he threw stopped something bigger. He was no longer just a soldier. He was the symbol of Earth's refusal to kneel. Valara fought in the air, her body glowing with energy. Her strikes faster, sharper, filled with rage, not against humans, but against the people who made her into a weapon. She crushed Alari. Drones with precision tore through her own squad like she had never known them. And in their eyes, she saw it. Fear not of Ray, but of her. One soldier screamed into his come. She's turned, Commander Valara has turned. From the ship above, a new sound rumbled. A massive cannon began to glow. Valara's eyes widened. They're going to destroy the base, even if it kills their own. Ray looked at the soldiers around him, tired, injured, still standing. He looked at Valara, torn, glowing, afraid, but still fighting. He made a choice. No one else dies tonight, he said. He took off toward the canyon again, but this time with a device in his hand, a prototype EMP bomb. Valara followed without asking. She didn't need to. Together, they dodged fire and flew through broken metal. The cannon began to power up a beam large enough to wipe out miles. But Ray reached the top of the ridge and slammed the device into the ground. Go back, he said to Valara. No, she replied. You'll die if you stay. Ray looked her in the eyes. Then I'll die standing up. Before she could argue, he activated the EMP. The sky turned white, then black. Every machine in the sky screamed. Sparked and fell. The cannon shut down. The drones dropped. Ray collapsed too. One knee coughing. Valara caught him before he fell. You idiot, she said. You brave, broken idiot. He laughed, weak but alive. Still here, he said. She held him tightly. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel cold. Above them, the mothership began to retreat, without air control, without Valara. They had lost the fight. Not two weapons, but two hearts that refused to give up. The sun rose slowly over the desert, not with fire, but with gold. A quiet light that spread across the battlefield like a warm apology. The fight was over, but the world didn't cheer. It breathed, exhausted. The Alari mothership had vanished. Into the sky, crippled, humiliated, and silent, they didn't send a message, didn't say goodbye. They just left. The Earth base was quiet. Smoke drifted from broken walls. Medics moved between the injured. Soldiers stood in silence. Unsure if they had won or just survived, Ray sat alone on a concrete block. Bandages on both arms, ribs cracked, lip bruised, but alive and watching, always watching. A soft sound. Behind him, he didn't turn, he already knew. Valara stepped forward, not floating, not glowing. Just walking like a person. She stood beside him and looked at the sun. Neither of them spoke for a long time, because sometimes victory doesn't sound like music, it just feels like quiet. Finally, she broke the silence. They won't forgive me, she said. Ray nodded. No, they won't. She looked down. I betrayed my kind. Ray shook his head. No, he said. You chose a better one, Valara. Sat down beside him. She looked tired, not from battle, but from thinking. For once, she wasn't Commander Valara. She was just ... Her. They'll come back, she said. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day. Ray nodded again. Then we'll be ready. She turned to face him. And if I stay here, will your people accept me? He gave a soft laugh. No idea, he said. We're weird like that. She frowned, confused. He smiled slightly. We don't trust easy, he said, but we forgive hard. She looked away again. The wind brushed past them, carrying dust and ash and something else, possibility. I don't know what I am without war, she whispered. Ray looked at her with tired eyes. Then maybe you find out, he said, one choice at a time. Later that day, Valara stood before a council of Earth leaders, not in chains, not in armor, but in silence. She didn't plead, didn't argue. She only said one thing. I fought beside him, and I saw what your people are. You're not strong because of weapons, she said. You're strong because you choose to be. Some leaders wanted her locked away. Others wanted her studied. But Ray stood and said, she bled for us. That was enough. Weeks passed. Valara lived in a quiet station near the sea. She studied human books, helped rebuild the base. She still didn't smile much, but sometimes she would watch children playing, or listen to old music by herself, or ask strange questions about kindness. And Ray knew she was learning. One evening, she stood by the ocean, its waves crashing at her feet. Ray walked beside her again. They stood in silence just like before. Finally, she turned to him and said, do you think I'm still a weapon? Ray looked at her. No, he said. I think you're finally free. She closed her eyes. Let the wind touch her face. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what she'd feel. And that was the real victory. Not ships, not guns, not the mothership falling back into space. But this, a single choice. A warrior putting down her sword, a planet surviving, and two broken people learning how to live.